Hey guys, this is Will coming at you with another episode of Really Chief Sports. We got a lot of topics to discuss today. A crazy couple weeks in sports world, and just want to apologize before I go into anything. Sorry if any of you guys predicted my Final Four picks. They did not go as much as I planned. I had Gonzaga, but that was clearly the most safe one. But in my defense, this March has clearly been madness. But yeah, so today the topics I'm going to go over is I'm going to start off with my favorite player of the week. Then I'm going to talk about my top 5 NFL draft prospects with no particular order. All of them clearly are Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance, and Jones. And then I'm going to discuss March Madness so far this year and a little bit of MLB. So to start, I'm going to start off with my favorite player of the week. And this comes at you in terms of courtesy of Justin Fields, quarterback from the Ohio State University. Not much to say here, but a lot of people question his accuracy down the field and his arm strength for whatever reason. I was never one of those people, but this throw, you just watch for yourself. Yeah, not much I could say there, but other than, of course, no one's coming at him. No one's on the guy downfield, CJ Saunders, but, one heck of a throw. If you could throw 70 yards onto one across your body, pretty impressive. He kind of won up Zach Wilson in his earlier pro day performance, in my opinion. So that's why I had it as my favorite player of the week. Now I'm going to talk about my top 5 NFL prospects. As I mentioned earlier, there's a clear top 5 consensus in my particular order of how I value and how I think their games will translate from the collegiate level to an NFL. And number 1, this might be controversial, and I'm not just saying this just to be controversial, but I'm going with Justin Fields out of the Ohio State University. Yes, I know most people would have Lawrence, and heck, most people would have Wilson at number 2, but I truly, truly believe that Justin Fields is the best quarterback prospect this year to go to the NFL. You just look at him. He has an insane build. He's a great decision maker. He has a great arm, very accurate. He is not afraid to stay in the pocket and take hits, but he's also smart when he runs with the ball because he has an athletic ability to get down. In fact, the only time he got hurt this year, really, was against the Clemson game, and that just shows his guts because he didn't go down when he normally slides down on a run because he fought for the extra yardage. Of course, he was just a yard short, but they called it a targeting, so they got a first down anyway. Came out for one play, and then he threw a touchdown. Right after that was nearly a broken rib, so that just shows his guts. And there's really not much to say. As you could also see this play I'm going to be showing you upcoming here. And this is, again, later in the game, after you already suffered that brutal, brutal hit. Threw a pass 60 yards downfield on the money, put all of his muscle and strength into it while injured, and in a college football playoff semifinal against a good defense in Clemson. So nothing much else you could say, but as you can see this video right here, very impressive, and I'll just let you watch. Look at, he threw that from his own 38-yard line, hit Olave in stride right at the goal line. Again, had an injury earlier that game. Perfect throw on the money. Increased Ohio State's lead by 3 touchdowns, and really that kind of was the nail in the coffin. So, heck of a throw by Justin Fields. If you can make that throw in college, you can make that throw in the NFL, and that's why he is my number 1 NFL quarterback prospect. And number 2, I'm going to go with Rapunzel. Obviously, I'm joking, don't be offended, Clemson and Trevor Lawrence fans, just messing around because of his hair, we like to have fun here, But, what else is there really to say about Trevor Lawrence that hasn't already been said by every NFL analyst and scout? Everyone knew about him since 2018. He was a top high school prospect out of 2018. Ever since then, all he's done is just won a national championship, 3 ACC titles, a Heisman finalist, been to the playoffs all 4 years, national title, runner-up. Heck of a collegiate career, and he's going to go down as one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. And rightfully so. He only has 2 losses in 3 years as a starting quarterback. Pretty remarkable. Great build, faster than he may seem, and he's a good decision maker, and you have to think that his game would translate to the next level, especially when he makes good decisions, and he had a 24-5 touchdown to interception ratio last year, which is pretty remarkable. I understand he had some good weapons, but, he has a lot of poise, and he has a lot of guts, and he really doesn't have really injury history like a lot of the other quarterbacks in the top 5 have, so that's why you would have to think that he's built well, and he should be in the long term for the NFL. At number 3, I'm going with Zach Wilson from BYU. I almost had him as my favorite player of the week. Of course, he earlier had a pro day performance before Justin Fields, and he had a really similar throw. Though I just think Fields' throw was just a little bit more impressive, and I think it was a little bit deeper. Again, they were both under one, but Zach Wilson, of course, here's the biggest thing people say to bash on him. He goes to BYU, right? He plays for BYU, so he doesn't face the elite defenses, which is fair. I agree with that. You haven't seen him go against the likes that like Fields, Lawrence, Jones had to go through. You just haven't. With that being said, you also haven't seen him have the same protection as those quarterbacks had, or have the same weapons that he had. So for him to throw over 3,600 yards last season and have a 33-3 touchdown to interception ratio and lead his team to a nearly flawless season, except the loss to like Coastal Carolina, and even that loss, let's be honest, that was not on him at all. He played really good. In fact, they just came up like 1 yard short, at the end of the game. But heck of a thrower. He's got the heart of a lion, and you got to think his game could translate good to the NFL. I just don't think he has quite the same attributes as Fields and Lawrence. That's why he's at number 3 for me. Number 4, I'm going with Mac Jones from the University of Alabama. Heck of a story. Really, love or hate Alabama, which pretty much everyone in this country either loves or hates the Crimson Tide. It's hard to hate on Mac Jones. He waited this was his 4th season, first year as a full starter. This is a perfect example of staying patient kids, waiting in line, learning under the wings from great quarterbacks who are now, by the way, starting quarterbacks in their own right of the NFL teams, i.e. Jalen Hurts for the Sixers, the Eagles, and Tua for the Dolphins. Yeah, the Sixers. Joe Embiid's really the quarterback there. But yeah, so, he learned under the wings from 2 great quarterbacks who are now in the NFL, waited his turn, and then he set an FBS record for pass completion percentage. Just monsterly efficient this past year. He completed the ball at a 77% time. That's more than 3 quarters. That's remarkable. I don't care about you could say all you want, his job was a lot easier than most quarterbacks in the country, which, let's be honest, was very true. He had Devontae Smith. He had all the weapons of the world, probably the best running back in the country last year. He had all the weapons, all the protection he needed. But, if you throw for 77%, it's pretty remarkable. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And he's truly just a game manager. He might not have the same attributes as the 3 quarterbacks I mentioned before. He still has a good arm, but, yeah, maybe he is just a game manager. But I feel like people used to say game manager as, a diss. I don't think it really is anymore. Tom Brady is proof that game managers can win the Super Bowl. In fact, you can win multiple Super Bowls as a game manager. So we'll see. We'll see, Mac Jones. Number 5, to knock off the top 5, is Trey Lance, which is still not a diss on him at all, because this is probably the deepest draft class. You got to know, this is the deepest quarterback draft class probably in my lifetime. And the only reason I have him at number 5, he could really well maybe even be the best. He's got a great build. He's got a very powerful arm. The only reason I have him at number 5 is just because he's the one I personally have seen the least amount of film on, watched the least amount of games. So I just don't feel like it would be in my right to rank him any higher just because I personally don't know nearly as much about him as the other 4 quarterbacks. However, I've done some research, watched a little bit of film. He's got a great build. He's pretty strong. He's very strong. He's very fast, too. And he might not even look like it, but, he ran for over 1,100 yards. He's a very smart runner, too, in his sophomore season. And, he had 42 touchdowns in his collegiate career and only 1 interception. So he's just a pure guy that looks like he knows how to throw the football and knows how to not make mistakes. So, I think his game could really easily translate well to the NFL, and I just think it's awesome that the NFL, it seems like every year, we're getting great quarterback prospects. I just think that's something good, challenge these veteran quarterbacks, challenge these other young quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's only going to just enhance the game from here on out. So, yeah, those are my top 5 quarterback prospects for this upcoming NFL draft. It should be exciting. That was my top 5. That is not where I think they'll go in order. That's just, it won't. So if you're looking to bet on where they'll go, Justin Fields, I do think he'll be the best quarterback in the NFL. I do, out of those 5 quarterbacks. I truly do. But he will not be taken number 1. He'll probably be the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft, which is sad. But might turn out better because Paulie doesn't want to play for Jacksonville anyway. And if he goes to the 49ers, I don't know. They have a much better defense, and they have a much better. I trust their coaches a lot more and the system. Now going to March Madness. It was very much madness. Obviously, the first day, the first day was tough, for me and for most people in terms of the tournament, Very frustrating, very upsetting. I mean, not only for my picks, but the teams I just really wanted to cheer for and root for. But, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you're talking about Oral Roberts was like a shot away from making Elite Eight. And honestly, they outplayed Arkansas most of the game. You had Albion Christian, or how do you say the name, upsetting Texas early on. You have UCLA going from the first four to the final four. You got Illinois getting upset by Sister Jean. I mean, Sister Jean University in the second round. It's crazy. After Illinois' best year since 2006. So it's crazy, I mean, every year you think you've seen the most in March Madness. You think it's just going to be all chalk this year, It just isn't, it just isn't. I mean, even at the ending of the Elite Eight, it's like, oh, it was crazy earlier in the tournament. Looked like it's just going to be a 1-1-1-2 seed in the Final Four. And then UCLA, final Elite Eight game, just upsets Michigan. So, I think it's only just and right that an 11 seed, a double-digit seed makes the Final Four this year, just in terms of how crazy this tournament has been. But before I go any deeper into that, I'm going to talk about the women's tournament for a bit. And I just got to give a shout-out to Ashley Jones. I mean, she is one heck of a player for Iowa State. They got eliminated in the round of 32, although they shouldn't have. It was just some very controversial calls at the end of the regulation. I mean, and no calls. I mean, Iowa State and Ashley Jones completely outplayed Texas A&M the entire game. And Texas A&M only had 2 losses coming into that game. I mean, a dominant 2 seed. And, Ashley Jones put up, she did what she could, and for 2 games she had 64 points and 27 boards. Let me repeat that. For 2 games, she had 65 points and 27 rebounds. I mean, that's averaging 32.5 a game and 13.5 boards a game. I mean, it's crazy. And not only having done a double-double, but a high, good double-double. I mean, one heck of a player. You got to think she's going to be a Big 12 Player of the Year next year and potentially first-team All-American and AP Player of the Year candidate. The reason I bring her up is not only just shout out her game, and I don't think she gets appreciated as much in terms of national media as like Paige Beckers and others of the like do, but she's also sisters of my friend Courtney here. Courtney, one of my best friends from college, and she was a great basketball player in her own right at U of I. And, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where Ashley learned it from. Courtney was a great player, and so really happy to see that her sister and her family are doing good. Very upsetting they didn't make the Sweet 16, but, what can you do with dwarfs? But talking about the rest of the women's tournament, talking about who I think is going to win it all from now, I'm just going to have to go with UConn. I mean, it's hard to bet against UConn in a normal year, but, I mean, I know they've kind of been more down recently, but, I mean, now they got Paige, and Paige Beckers is more like Paige Buckets, and, yeah, I know it's a very, very bad pun that I'm sure a lot of other people have used, but, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, she's got an insane mid-range game. She's got a great shot from beyond the arc. And, I mean, she had 28 points in the Elite Eight performance against Baylor, which, again, was another controversial call at the end. I mean, these refs really do need to be evaluated here for these women's tournament because it has not looked good at all. And for the men's tournament as well. But, yeah, I mean, they deserve the Final Four anyway. They're a great team. And I just don't see anyone taking them down. And going over to the men's side, 4 teams in it, obviously Gonzaga versus UCLA and Baylor versus Houston. I mean, at this point, it's just 2 games in 3 days. You got to win, so can't count anyone out, even though Baylor's going to be a big favorite against Houston. And Gonzaga's going to be a huge favorite. Very big favorite against UCLA. But, I mean, UCLA just won 5 games in, like, a 2-week span, so you can't count them out. Still a very talented team. And, very good coach, Mick Cronin, but, I mean, Gonzaga's just a machine this year. You have to think Gonzaga's going to beat UCLA. I mean, they're just super deep, unbelievable, and, yeah, I think they're going to beat them, and I will think Baylor will probably beat Houston as well. I do think that would be a better matchup, but I just think Baylor is just a team of all seniors, all veterans, and Davion Mitchell, the whole team. It's just a very talented team. So I do think we'll have Gonzaga and Baylor matchup in the finals, which I think is good because I think probably been the most two consistent teams all year, and this is what I think America deserves to see. Who's national champion? I think whoever wins is the rightful national champion. I'm gonna have to go with Gonzaga just because of how deep they are, but I don't know. It could be either or. Really any four team could win at this point. You're in the Final Four. It's got to win two games in 3 days. So. Final topic today I'm going to briefly discuss is just the MLB. It's only one day in so far. Today's the second day, but most teams have off, as they traditionally do. Normally opening day, of course, is on Thursday and Friday. Most teams have a day off, and they'll finish the series Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, nothing much to talk about the first day. Briefly talk about the Reds, Luis Castillo, it's in Cincinnati, and it was 20-degree wind chill, and it literally started snowing a little bit in the 6th and 7th inning. I'm like, what? I'm like, is this April Fool's? Well, it was April Fool's. So I'm like, April Fool's, it's snowing, you're playing baseball, but yeah, he did not look great. Obviously, I still think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's really just got he's got a slider a little bit he uses out here and there, but he's really just a pitcher and two-pitch pitcher. He's got a great repertoire in terms of his two-seamer. Comes in on right-handed hitters and away from left-handed hitters, which is insane. And his changeup just bites ridiculously. He didn't really have it going yesterday, but, it's his first start. I still have high hopes for him and high expectations for the Reds going forward this year in terms of the pitching staff. Offensively, they look pretty good. Yesterday, I think they'll be fine. It's just, I do think it's a lot harder to pitch in I think it's harder to pitch opening day. When the opening day starter, they don't pitch for at least a week beforehand. So, you're not coming off your normal traditional 4 days rest and then you're pitching every 5 days. And also you just haven't had the same workload in your off season. So, I think a lot of pitchers, slowly take some time to build up maybe the May and June till they're in mid-season form, and doesn't help when the weather's super cold. And in terms of the Cubs also had a brutal day yesterday. Only had 2 hits, obviously, in 9 innings, and lost to the Pirates. But, shouldn't be too worried, They still got a good ball club, and any team could still win Central this year. You can't count anyone out. Maybe the Pirates, although the Pirates won yesterday against the Cubs, so you never know. But, no, they let's be honest, they won't win the division. But, yeah, I talked about my MLB picks last episode, and I'm just going to stick with that. Those 10 teams make the playoffs, but yeah, it's baseball. It's 162 games, long season. To each their own, and may the best team win. Should be exciting to watch going forward. So yeah, that will conclude this episode of Willie T Sports today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got so much great episodes and content coming at you in the future, and tons of things to look forward to in sports this upcoming week. Of course. Today is Friday, so we got the Final Four matchup tomorrow, the 2 Final Four matchups tomorrow, and you got the Women's Final Four matchup on Sunday, and then we got the National Championship games on Monday, Tuesday, and of course, starting MLB season, end of the NBA season. We'll see how that's going to be. See if these teams could be healthy, and it's really just an arms race right now in the NBA, it seems like, in terms of the Lakers and Nets. It's hard to even imagine, a finals matchup without the Lakers and Nets. It's almost just an East and Western Conference all-star game at this point, except the best 4 out of 7 series, which of course is exciting, but it kind of makes the regular season a little bit more dull. It's Anthony Davis and LeBron are both out right now, and it just doesn't really even matter. And KD's out right now for the Nets. It doesn't really matter because no one cares about the regular season. That's the one thing I think NBA, which I could discuss in a future episode, there needs to be more parity in NBA. And I feel like it used to not be like this, but now, all these stars, Morris last year for the Lakers, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Andre Drummond for the Lakers. All these players, former All-Stars, great players of the game, except besides LaMarcus Aldridge, they haven't won a ring. So, of course, if, you want to win a ring, Blake Griffin hasn't won a ring, Andre Drummond, clearly, obviously hasn't won a ring. So what are they going to do? They're going to, sign for, veterans minimum, whatever, and just go to a team where they think they could earn a ring. And I'm like, dude, I get that, they want to be competitive and win, but it's just tough, they're able to get all these, again, these players aren't even going to be, probably not going to, neither of these guys, maybe Drummond, but they're not going to really be in the starting lineup, but they're definitely going to have a valuable piece off the bench, definitely in the rotation regardless, but it's, I understand people want a ring, but, in terms of their legacy, Like, say Blake Griffin, if he's like the seventh man of the Nets this year and they win the ring and they win the NBA Finals, is that really gonna like help his like legacy? Like, I don't. Oh, slam dunk champion, one of the most athletic best dunkers in NBA history, and he won NBA Finals as the seventh man of the Nets. Like what? Like, he's already in the Hall of Fame anyway. Like, does that really help? Like, I don't know. NBA has to do something about that. CP. I mean, back in the day, they didn't even let CP3 join up with Kobe. Now it's just like yeah, anyone could play together. It's just frustrating as an NBA fan, which I am, just because it just means there's less parity, which is okay, but it's just how it is. But again, thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been a great episode, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, this is Willie T, and you're watching Willie T Sports.